Welcome back. As you know, the SABC is giving you rolling coverage of the ANC's 55th National Conference currently taking place in Nasrec. The conference is expected to conclude next week, Tuesday. Now, let's get analysis on the conference. We're now joined via Zoom by political analyst, Professor Zwelethu Jolobe. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's look at proceedings today as they stand. We know that, of course, the conference was expected to start at 9 a.m., where President Cyril Ramaphosa was then expected, to deliver his opening remarks. The conference, as we stand now, has not started, with some members still being registered. Just talk to us about, just some of your thoughts around this delay.
Well, it's a very unusual one, because one would think that by this stage, all issues that deal with accreditation would have been resolved. And the mere fact that it's not talks a lot to the general disorganization, because it's not the first time that the ANC has held such a major event. And so I think that it's not so much about there being the kinds of issues that would warrant a delay of over 6 hours, and so this is really what it boils down to. If we look at the previous conference, for instance, even though some members had taken the NEC, I think it was to court even, they were able to resolve all of those issues in a way that you did not have the kind of delays that we see now.
Prof, there've been so many developments, running up to this conference. I want us to talk about the private prosecution by former President Jacob Zuma. Of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa has responded to it and has rejected what he terms the abuse of the legal processes, and has labeled this private prosecution bid by the former president as substandard. What's your take on this private prosecution route that the former president has taken, also on the eve of the conference?
I think private prosecutions like this create a very dangerous precedent, in the sense that politicians do not rely on things like campaigning. They don't rely on things like argument, on things like debate, in order to win, or in order to somehow convince the other side of whatever merits that they may have. I think that it talks to a very dangerous kind of curve that we are seeing. The second thing is that I'm not sure whether the people who argued for a step aside thought that such possibility would even be possible, because if the route that Mr. Zuma takes, and if this route is able to succeed, it means that anybody who has any grievance with any leader in the context of be it a conference, be it a fight over mayorship, can simply launch a private prosecution in order to block whatever aspirations another rival may have. And so I think that the overall implication is the abuse of the law in order to fight what are essentially purely political battles.
How will it play itself out, in the conference? Presuming it starts today, of course, members will be going to plenary after those reports are tabled by the president of the ANC. Will it find room at all today, especially?
I think the idea is that whether or not conference delegates will be able to somehow entertain these things is a whole new issue together. If we are to go with the kind of support that was shown to the president in the context of what happened in Parliament this week, I think that there's a very little likelihood that it would gain the kind of traction that they want. However, once again, I think that this issue is beyond conference, and I think that it has a lot to do with the problems of a step aside resolution has in the context of rival contestations for positions, for power, and all these things. And that what it has done is that it has opened up a can of worms where people can use the court, not so much use, but people can abuse the court process in a way to find what is essentially battles that are for issues of party positions and all that. And so I think that whether or not it gains traction or not is not really what the issue is here. It could, for instance, be completely shut down now, but then it could be raised again in January, in February, etc. And not only within the context of a national conference, it could even be, rival contestations in the context of a provincial congress, where because I want to fight against this person, and because I cannot use campaigning, reasoning, argument, and all these things, I will simply abuse the court process in a way that will try to either nullify them or to even disqualify them. And so for me at least, the main issue here is that it has broader issues beyond the conference.
Now, Prof, of course, we know that this national conference is key to, just again revisiting some of the key policies that were adopted by the party in 2017 on the 54th national conference. But the elective part of the conference is also what is drawing the numbers game per se, and people are watching that very closely. Let's now talk about, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, who not too long ago, as we saw in Parliament, voting in favor of adoption of the Section 89 Phala Phala report. She then tweeted, this morning saying that she wishes to assure you that the communication I received from the acting SG of the ANC does not affect my ability to stand. If nominated by branches of the ANC, I'm still allowed to stand for nomination, and I will avail myself. Of course, we know that she is undergoing a DC procedure. So talk to us then about her statements and also what is likely to happen at conference in as far as Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma is concerned.
Look, if we look at the bigger picture here, and if we take the nomination results that come out at the end of November, even though they are not the word, I think that they do give us some kind of indication where the balance of power lies now. And so I think that in terms of what the overall vote could be, is that it won't look any much significantly different from how things look like at the end of November. If we then take the parliamentary vote that happened on Tuesday, and we also look at that and say, well, then, how do the numbers add up here? Once again, you do see a kind of pattern where the balance of power is not in her court. It's not that she doesn't have support. She does, yes, but I don't think that she's going to have the kind of support that's going to change the way that the picture looks like generally. So that, I think, is where we're at. If we then go and look at, well, then what are the implications of the disciplinary hearings and all these things? I think that I wouldn't expect any disciplinary process to unfold now. And I think that it would probably be something that the incoming NEC will have to manage. And that is simply because the highest decision-making body of the ANC is what is happening now, right? And so I think that if we sort of had to have our looking glass, right, and we say, well, then, in light of the way that the balance of forces look at the moment, and in light of the fact that we don't expect a significant shift, I think that if the nomination results were more or less even, right, meaning it was a kind of 48, 52 split, for instance, then I think that we could perhaps entertain the possibility that any nomination that will come could have some significance potentially. But I think that because of the balance of forces as they are, I don't think that it will gain that much importance. When it comes to a matter of discipline, I think that if I understand what the charge sheet looks like, a lot of it has got to do with two main things. The one is that she did not vote as per instruction of the NEC, which is, in my understanding, against rules. The second one is that she voted with parties of opposition. Given her seniority and given her sort of general importance in the party, and also given the history that she's had in the ANC, I don't think that she would get as much sanction as a person who didn't have that kind of seniority, a person who didn't have that kind of prestige.
And I do think that I'm afraid we've run out of time. We need to interrupt this interview. Thank you so much for your time, though, but plenty to unpack. And of course, we'll continue to unpack the ANC's national conference. But for now, let's take a quick break. That was political analyst, Professor Zweletu Jolobe.